Hey Goblin, you've been really practicing those war drums.
I'll bring the generic goblin noise!
Hey gang, and welcome back. Just so you know, you can use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, one word, at FlipsideGaming.com to get 10% off orders $10 or more. You can also use the promo code at Original Magic Art on everything except for paintings. And finally, you can use the code at mtg.multizone.ca to get 10% off of your orders of singles. Using the code will help you save some money and help out the channel at the same time. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game is another Multizone matchup. We have Nick joining us with the bestest of boys, and he's playing his new Mowu deck, keeping a Sakura Tribe Elder, 2 Forests, Oran Reef, Swiftfoot Boots, Croson Grip, and Sylvan Library. Martin the Madman is playing Kentaro, keeping 3 Snow-Covered Plains, a Soul Ring, Indebted Samurai, and a Miria Shepherd. New to the channel is Chris, who's come out to join us, and he's playing Kumena, keeping 2 Islands, Shapers of Nature, Tashana, Merfolk Mistbinder, Command Tower, and Reliquary Tower. Last but not least, we have Max playing Taigam, keeping Skycloud Expanse, a Miria Shepherd, Endless Horizons, an Island, Counterspell, a Plains, and Primal Amulet. Nick wins the die roll and starts us off. Nick plays a tapped Oran Reef and passes to Chris. Chris plays Command Tower and passes. Max plays an Island and passes. Martin plays a Snow-Covered Plains and casts Soul Ring. Nick plays a Forest and brings out a Sakura Tribe Elder. Chris plays an Island and he casts Merfolk Mistbinder. Max plays a Plains and passes. Martin plays a Snow-Covered Plains, and Nick takes the time to sacrifice his Sakura Tribe Elder to find a forest. Martin also casts his commander, Kentaro, and then an Inner Chamber Guard. Nick plays a forest, and he brings out Swiftfoot Boots, and then a Sylvan Library. Chris plays a Reliquary Tower, and casts his commander, Kumena. He then passes to Max. Max plays a Skycloud Expanse, passing. Martin plays a Snow-Covered Plains and casts Mind's Eye in his main phase. He then passes. Nick uses his library trigger, losing 4 life to keep an extra card. His turn is pretty quick as he casts a Rampant Growth and then a Lifecrafter's Bestiary before going to find a basic and passing. Chris plays an Island and pays 4 to cast Forerunner of the Heralds. He goes looking for a Merfolk card and puts Marrow Commerce on top of his library. Max plays a Plains and casts Endless Horizons. He exiles a bunch of Plains from his library and sticks them under the enchantment before passing. Martin draws and plays a Snow-Covered Plains and passes. Nick doesn't draw any extra cards this time, and Martin pays 1 to draw with the eye. Nick then plays an Opal Palace as his land for turn, and then casts the goodest of boys, Mowu. Using the Opal Palace, and Mowu comes into play with the +1/+1 counter and adds another because of his ability. Nick then taps Oran Reef, giving all creatures that entered a +1/+1 counter, and Mowu gains that many counters +1. Nick then pays 1 to equip Mowu with some booties and heads to combat. Nick swings his commander at Chris for 7 commander damage and passes. At the end of turn, Chris taps 3 Merfolks to Kumena's ability, drawing a card. Martin also pays 1 to draw with the eye as well. Chris plays an Island for turn, and Martin taps the Snow-Covered Plains to draw from Chris's draw step. We then see a Lord of Atlantis hit the field, and Max is suddenly very open. The Forerunner also gains a +1/+1 counter, and Chris then taps the Lord of Atlantis to make Kumena unblockable and heads to combat. He swings Kumena at Nick, and the Forerunner and Mistbinder at Max. He deals 4 commander damage to Nick and 8 damage to Max. In his second main phase, Chris casts his Marrow Commerce and passes, untapping his Merfolk at the end of turn. Max gets a Plains from his Endless Horizon trigger and draws for turn, with Martin paying 1 to draw as well. Max then plays a land and casts Primal Amulet and passes. Martin draws and plays the Snow-Covered Plains. He pays 2 for Pearl Medallion and then plays an Ashnod's Altar. He passes, and at the end of turn, discards down to 7. Nick scries 1 and keeps it on top. He then uses the library trigger, and Martin preemptively pays the 1 to draw with Nick on his draw step. Nick takes the full 8 to keep all 3 cards, and moving to his main phase, he casts Retreat to Kazandu, and enchants Mowu with an Ordeal of Nylea. Nick then swings Mowu at Chris, and the Ordeal triggers, giving Mowu 2+1/+1 counters, and then sacrificing itself to go and find 2 basics. The basics enter and trigger the retreat, giving Mowu 2 more +1/+1 counters, which comes with 2 more thanks to Mowu's ability. Not even blinking, Chris says the only point of commander damage that matters is the last one, so he'll take the hit and goes up to 20 commander damage. In his second main phase, Nick then casts Umezawa's Jitte and passes. At the end of turn, Chris taps some merfolks to draw a card. Chris untaps and draws, with Martin joining in by paying 1 to his eye trigger. Chris then plays an Alchemist's Refuge, and taps 3 merfolk again to draw a card. He swings Kumena once more at max for 4 commander damage. In his second main phase, Chris then casts Harvest Season, and gets to go and find 4 basics. He then brings out Thada Adel, which gives his Forerunner another counter. Moving to his end step, Chris untaps his merfolk. Max grabs a land from his Horizons trigger and draws, and plays a Prairie Stream, and then passes. Martin plays a Snow-Covered Plains, and needs to only pay 2 for one of my absolute favorite white enchantments, Martyr's Cause. Martin is then able to cast a Devoted Retainer for free because of how Kentaro and the Pearl Medallion work in tandem. He passes to Nick, suggesting that he swings his Pupper at someone else if Nick wants Mowu to connect. Nick scries, keeping it on top, and uses his library trigger. And Martin pays 1 to draw with his eye trigger. Nick then rearranges the cards and draws just the 1. Nick's main phase then sees Rishkar's Expertise hit the stack, which resolves, drawing him 13 cards. He gets to cast Forgotten Ancient for free, but Max steals it away with Desertion. I guess you get what you pay for. And Max also gets to put a counter on his amulet. Nick then casts a Hardened Scales, and plays a Forest, gaining 3 counters on Mowu from the retreat trigger. Nick then enchants Mowu with Predatory Hunger, which I call a flavor win. And he casts Ancient Animus to have Mowu gain some more counters, and then fight the tiny Kumena. With the spell on the stack, Chris taps his 5 merfolks to give them all a +1/+1 counter, and Kumena then gets chomped into tiny pieces by Mowu. Nick then swings Mowu at max, fearing a board wipe, and deals 18 commander damage. Nick then passes, and discards down to 7. Living up to its name, Max remembers to put the counters on the Forgotten Ancient at the end of turn for the spells that Nick cast. Chris draws, and Martin draws as well. Chris casts a Deeproot Elite in his main phase, and then pays 7 to cast Tishana. Meanwhile, Max and Nick are adding their respective +1/+1 counters from the Forgotten Ancient and Predatory Hunger. Chris then draws 6 cards, with Martin paying 1 to one of the eye triggers to draw another card. Chris also adds another counter to his Forerunner, as well as to the Deeproot Elite. There's then some debate over whether Chris should swing at Max or Nick, with Max raising the point about Nick killing Kumena, while Nick warns about a potential wrath coming from Max. Chris settles on taking out Max, and swings his board at him. Max uses his Ancient to take out the Lord of Atlantis, and then sadly gets taken out. Moving to his second main phase, Chris casts Throne of the God Pharaoh, and at the end of turn, he deals through with the Throne trigger, resolving it first, and then untaps his creatures. Martin draws and pays 6 for a Caged Sun. The spell resolves, as no one at the table is quite sure what Martin's trying to do with the deck. We then see a Hand of Honor hitting the field, which confuses us further. Martin then ends his turn, discarding down to 7. Nick scries 1 and bottoms the card. He then uses his library trigger, but only draws the 1 for turn. Nick plays a Cathedral of War, pumping Mowu full of more +1/+1 counters thanks to their tree trigger, and then casts Croson Grip, targeting the Martyr's Cause. The cause gets blown up, and Nick then drops Basilisk Collar, and my mind is literally swimming in flavor country. Nick then equips the collar onto Mowu, who is the best boy, and he casts Enter the Unknown to have Mowu explore. He reveals a Ghost Quarter, drawing it, and then plays it. This enters and gives Mowu more counters from the retreat trigger. Nick then casts Rishkar, giving Mowu even more counters and putting 2 onto Rishkar himself. Moving to combat, Mowu heads towards Martin. Before moving to damage, Martin taps a Plains for 2 white and sacrifices a Samurai to his altar to pay for Return to Dust. He exiles the collar, and sadly, even with blocks, Martin still bites the big one as Mowu connects. Also unfortunately for Nick, he really wanted to gain some life, and with nothing else, he passes to Chris. Chris draws and plays a Hinterland Harbor. He casts a Herald of the Secret Streams in his main phase, which pumps the Forerunner and the Elite, and makes his board very difficult to deal with for Nick. This lets Chris simply move to combat, and he turns some cardboard sideways and takes Nick out of the game to win. Game review time. I want to thank Nick for having Mowu and building him so quickly. We filmed this game basically the week after War of the Spark came out. I think he did a fantastic job balancing between keeping the deck thematic and at the same time keeping it powerful and relevant. I also want to thank Chris for coming out and joining us and for bringing his Kumena deck. I think this is probably the best that Kumena's ever done on the channel. I really like the Commander and the versatility that the 3 activated abilities offer a Merfolk deck. Unfortunately for Max, I think this continues the trend of using Taigam Ujitai Master. The other Andrew also had the same problem a few weeks ago, and I hope to be able to get a game with Taigam where he actually is able to do stuff. It actually turns out that Kentaro was a mono-white combo-based deck, at least according to Martin. I've asked him to bring it back in the future again and have a game on camera so we can actually see what it does. I'm really interested to see how it's a combo deck, especially in mono-white, so I look forward to that in the future. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta, and lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.